There comes a time when you look around and realize no one's coming to save you. Not your friends, not your family, not the people who said they'd always be there. The crowd thins, the cheers stop, and the silence begins, and that's exactly where your real journey starts. In a world obsessed with being seen, being praised, and being followed, this video is not for those who crave attention. It's for those who are done waiting, for those who know that becoming unbreakable doesn't happen in front of an audience. It happens when you walk alone, rise alone, and win alone. Marcus Aurelius didn't write to impress. He wrote to remember who he was, especially when the world around him blurred the line between truth and noise. And today, we do the same. We strip away everything that isn't us, every approval we begged for, every applause we thought we needed, and we return to the one person we must never abandon, ourselves. If you're ready to face that quiet space where excuses die and strength is born, then stay with me. If you've ever felt unseen, misunderstood, or underestimated, this message is yours. Tap the subscribe button to stay connected with content that doesn't flatter you, but sharpens you. And if anything in this speaks to your experience, drop a comment below. Let us know where in life you chose to rise alone. Because you're not the only one walking this path, but you are the one who must take the next step. 1. Step into silence to hear your true inner voice. There's a certain kind of silence that most people avoid. Not the silence in a quiet room, but the one that settles in when the world stops demanding your attention. After his company downsized, a middle-aged man found himself surrounded by advice. Everyone told him to update his resume, dive into job listings, and stay busy so he wouldn't spiral. But he didn't. Instead, he started walking at dawn, without a phone, without a plan, just with himself. At first, he felt lost. The streets were quiet, his thoughts were scattered, and the stillness felt strange, even threatening. But day after day, something inside him began to shift. The cluttered noise in his mind slowly gave way to clarity. And in that quiet space, a question surfaced, one he hadn't dared to ask in years. Am I living the life I truly want? That question didn't come from a book, a podcast, or a friend. It came from his own inner voice, the one that had been drowned out by years of noise, speed, and external expectations. This isn't about deep meditation retreats or philosophical exile. It's about the small, everyday pauses that invite us back into ourselves. Like the mother who stays in her parked car for 10 minutes after school drop-off, just breathing. Or the elderly neighbor who stops mid-gardening to watch a single leaf sway in the wind. These moments don't look like transformation, but they are. Because in those still, unguarded minutes, something deeper awakens. It's not the version of us shaped by others, but the one that has been patiently waiting beneath the surface. That voice doesn't scream, it doesn't beg for attention, it waits. And when the distractions fall away, when we finally allow ourselves to be alone with our thoughts, it starts to speak. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But that retreat isn't automatic. It's not something you stumble into. You have to step toward it. And for many, that step feels uncomfortable. Because silence can be disorienting when you've built your identity around noise. The mind will reach for a distraction, a notification, or a task. Anything to avoid sitting still. But if you resist that urge, if you let the silence linger, your true self starts to come forward. Not the version curated for others, not the mask you wear in meetings or on social media, but the raw, honest self that asks real questions and wants real answers. Most people don't realize how emotionally dependent they've become on stimulation. From the moment they wake up, they flood their senses with movement, sound, and input. But when everything is turned off, what remains? That's the test. That's where emotional resilience begins. Not in performing for others, but in recognizing the strength it takes to be alone with your thoughts and not run from them. Because in that space, you start to hear what matters. Your desires, your doubts, your values. You begin to understand that true clarity doesn't come from feedback or affirmation. It comes from being able to sit in stillness and feel full. So don't underestimate the quiet moments. Don't overlook the ordinary routines that create space for stillness. A silent walk, an unplugged morning, or even a few minutes staring out the window after a long day. These aren't breaks from your life. They are the parts of life that bring you back to who you are. And sometimes the answers we seek, the decisions we keep postponing, the purpose we're trying to find, they don't come from chasing something louder. They come when we stop chasing altogether, when we finally stop to listen, not to the world, but to ourselves. Because the most powerful voice you'll ever hear won't come from the outside. It will rise in silence, and it will sound a lot like the truth. 2. Refuse dependency to build unshakable inner power. There's a quiet kind of weakness that often goes unnoticed because it hides behind comfort. It looks like convenience, support, and care, but underneath it is dependence. And dependence, no matter how gentle it feels, slowly chips away at your emotional independence and your inner strength. A friend of yours, for example, may have always had someone to lean on. When the bills piled up, her parents stepped in. When she struggled with college, her boyfriend changed her major for her, telling her what would be best. She never really had to make her own decisions, until one day, all the usual support systems went silent. Her parents were dealing with their own crisis. Her relationship ended, and the people she once leaned on simply weren't there. She panicked. She felt lost, not because she was weak, but because she had never been taught how to be strong alone. That's when the realization hit her. She had never truly lived by her own judgment. She had outsourced her direction for so long that she no longer trusted her own compass. And that realization, painful as it was, marked the beginning of something powerful. Because in that space, where no one answers your calls, where no one texts to ask if you're okay, you find a deeper voice, the one that has always been yours, waiting to be heard beneath the layers of reassurance and advice. That voice doesn't offer a blueprint. It doesn't hand you a step-by-step plan, but it asks you a question that changes everything. What would you do if you could no longer depend on anyone else? Most people are never asked to answer that. They're so used to checking in with someone else, seeking a second opinion, a comforting nod of approval, that they lose the ability to act from within. But the Stoics knew the danger of that. They taught that the self is a fortress, and if you let others hold up your walls, you give them the power to tear you down. Stoicism doesn't teach you to isolate or push people away. It doesn't demand that you live without connection. It teaches you to stop giving away your core stability to others, to stop making your peace dependent on someone else's presence. It teaches you to build inner power that no absence can shake. It might sound harsh to some, to stop relying on that one friend who texts you every night, to stop expecting someone to call when you're sad, but it's not about coldness. It's about clarity. Because before you can truly connect with others in a meaningful way, you have to know who you are without them. Before you can give love freely, you have to make sure you're not offering it out of need. And before you can stand with anyone else, you have to prove you can stand alone. That kind of self-sufficiency is rare. It doesn't show up in loud declarations. It shows up in small decisions, the ones you make when no one is checking on you. The ones that reveal whether you're building your life around approval or alignment. There's a moment when you stop waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to start. You stop hoping for someone to fix what you're facing, and instead, you begin. You begin with what you have. You choose clarity over comfort. You stop asking for permission to heal, to grow, to move forward. You just do it. That shift, subtle as it may seem, is the foundation of unshakable inner power. Because once you prove to yourself that you can stand without being held up, you don't just survive, you rise. You lead yourself, you protect your energy, and most importantly, you stop giving away the authority over your life to people who were never meant to carry it. When you no longer need someone else to keep you upright, you finally start standing on your own terms. And there's nothing more powerful than that. 3. Persist in darkness to become your most dangerous self. There's a version of you that no one sees being built, not in public, not in applause, but in the quiet hours where you choose effort over ease. Think about a friend you once knew, someone who seemed to disappear after a personal crisis. You didn't hear from him for months, but what you didn't see were the mornings he woke up before dawn, sat alone with his thoughts, and taught himself how to rebuild a resume he hadn't touched in 10 years. Or maybe it was someone else, Someone who deleted every social media app just to study in silence after failing a critical exam. No celebration, no encouragement. But behind that closed door, something formidable was forming. Those moments of obscurity, of repeated invisible work, are the forge, not the stage, of your most powerful self. Most people wait for motivation to strike. They want conditions to be ideal, timing to be perfect, and support to be available. But the Stoic doesn't wait. The Stoic rises while the world sleeps, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. They understand that the strength worth having is the strength no one sees being built. If you are in one of those seasons now, maybe you're budgeting more carefully after a divorce, working out in silence after a health scare, or relearning a skill after being laid off, know this. It may not look impressive to others, but you are laying the foundation of someone they will not recognize later. And that's the point. Because your most dangerous self isn't created under lights. It's created in solitude. When Epictetus said, "Be content to be thought foolish and stupid," he wasn't encouraging ignorance, he was encouraging freedom. The kind of freedom that grows when you stop needing validation. When you persist without applause, you detach from performance. You stop doing things to be seen and start doing them to become. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, focus over entertainment, principle over comfort, you are reinforcing something indestructible inside. And though no one may know it now, they will see it later. Not in what you say, but in how you move, how you speak, how unshaken you are in the face of pressure. You may feel invisible right now. That's okay. You may wonder if your quiet efforts matter, if waking up early when no one sees, saying no to impulse purchases when no one knows, or sticking to your study plan when no one's tracking it is worth it. But the Stoic understands that being unseen is not the same as being insignificant. Some of the most dangerous people in the world are the ones no one saw coming, the ones who trained while others laughed, the ones who remained calm while others sought attention. They are not loud, but they are lethal, because they are built from silence and discipline, not from recognition. In modern life, this might look like journaling when you're overwhelmed instead of venting online. It might mean walking away from conversations that drain your focus instead of chasing closure. It might be the way you commit to your evening routine while everyone else is numbing out with endless scrolling. And yes, it might feel boring, repetitive, even lonely. But mastery doesn't bloom in noise. It grows in rhythm, in consistency, in repetition that no one claps for. The gym with no mirrors, the study session with no group chat, the prayer whispered when no one's listening. These are the places where your next level is built. So don't be afraid if you're the one working in the shadows right now. Don't resent the obscurity, embrace it. Because the ones who persist in darkness are the ones who emerge unbreakable. When the lights finally hit you, you won't need them. You will already know who you are. And that is what makes you dangerous. Not your visibility, not following, but your foundation, quiet, disciplined, untouchable. 4. Turn quiet pain into a teacher that forges resilience. Pain doesn't always arrive with drama. Sometimes it shows up quietly, unannounced, and lingers in the corners of your life. Unspoken, misunderstood, but heavy. For some, it comes as a loss of purpose, not a tragedy. Like the retired doctor who spent decades saving lives, answering urgent calls, and being the one everyone turned to. Then one day the calls stop. No one asks for his opinion. The silence is louder than he expected. He doesn't speak of it often, but he feels it. The emptiness of no longer being needed. At first, he mourns that invisible loss. But instead of retreating into bitterness, he picks up a pen. Slowly, he begins writing down the lessons medicine taught him. Not for prestige, but for students who might one day carry what he once held. The pain of being overlooked transforms into a new kind of purpose. What once felt like an ending becomes a channel to serve again, this time from behind the curtain. Or consider the young man who thought he found love, only to be left without warning. His first instinct was to blame her, timing, and bad luck. But late one night, instead of texting or venting, he sat alone and asked himself the question most avoided. Is there something in me I haven't yet faced? That one question marked the beginning of change. He began reading, journaling, listening, not to fix himself for anyone else, but to understand what hurt so deeply and why. That heartbreak, once a private wound, became his most honest mirror. The lesson wasn't loud, but it was lasting. Pain, especially the quiet kind, holds a strange power. It can either hollow you out or deepen you, and the Stoics understood that how you respond to pain shapes your character more than the pain itself. Life does not ask if you are ready before it disrupts your comfort. It simply delivers the weight and waits to see what you will do with it. Some people carry pain like a burden. Others carry it like a question. When you ask what the pain is trying to teach you, you begin to forge resilience. Not a brittle toughness, but a flexible strength. You become emotionally independent, not by avoiding what hurts, but by confronting it until it no longer controls you. It's easy to let pain define you, to wear it like a badge, repeat the same stories, and let it justify stagnation. But the Stoic chooses another path. They sit with discomfort long enough to let it reveal something useful. They don't suppress the feeling. They examine it, learn from it, and integrate it into who they are becoming. Resilience is not built through avoidance. It is built by letting pain sharpen your awareness, clarify your values, and expose the gaps in your character that need work. This kind of growth rarely comes in public. It happens when you're alone in your room with nothing but the echo of a feeling you can't explain. But if you stay there long enough and listen carefully, you'll hear more than sorrow. You'll hear direction. And maybe right now, you're carrying something like that. A quiet pain you haven't named. A sadness that follows you without words. Maybe you've told yourself to move on, to be strong, to get over it, but none of it seems to work. That's not a weakness. That's a signal. A signal that what you're holding isn't meant to be buried. It's meant to be understood. Let it teach you. Let it stretch you. Let it break something false in you so something true can take its place. Because not every wound is meant to close quickly. Some are meant to stay open, just long enough to reshape you. There will be no trophies for this kind of healing, no applause, no status boost. But there will be depth. And in a world built on surfaces, depth is power. So the next time pain visits you quietly, don't push it away. Sit down with it. Ask it questions, let it show you what's been ignored too long. And when it leaves, as all pain eventually does, it won't leave you hollow. It will leave you stronger. Not in spite of the pain, but because you chose to learn from it. 5. Defeat yourself daily instead of trying to beat others. There's a quiet victory that happens when no one's watching, and it's not about beating anyone else. It's about beating the voice inside you that says, skip today. In a world obsessed with competition, comparison, and constant measurement, Stoicism offers something radically different. The idea that the only opponent worth fighting is the one living within you. Picture a friend who shows up to the gym every morning, not because he wants a medal or a post-worthy transformation, but because he's made a private decision to defeat his own laziness. Every time he gets out of bed before the sun rises, he wins. Not over you, not over society, over himself. Or think of your neighbor, the one who always politely declines the weekly invites to hang out. She's not isolating, she's simply focused. She's using her evenings to master a new skill, not because she needs to prove anything to anyone, but because she's tired of breaking promises to herself. You won't see her accomplishments online. You won't hear her talk about grind culture. But every night she sits down to learn, she reclaims a little more of her self-worth. She doesn't win arguments. She wins back her time. That's the kind of strength the world doesn't often celebrate, but it's the only kind that lasts. We're constantly being pulled into the temptation to compare who has more success, more followers, more achievements. But the Stoic doesn't look outward for validation. The Stoic looks inward and asks a much harder question. Did I improve? Not in headlines, but in habits. Not in applause, but in alignment. Every moment you choose not to chase the crowd, but to center yourself in purpose, you're winning. Every time you silence the urge to scroll mindlessly and instead open a book, every time you walk away from gossip and choose stillness, you're not proving superiority. You're just refusing to betray your own potential. And maybe today your win is small. You got out of bed on time. You drank water instead of soda. You journaled instead of complaining. These may not look like milestones, but they matter. Because these are the daily battles that build a resilient mind. These are the repeated moments of self-discipline that accumulate into self-mastery. No one needs to congratulate you for them. Life will. It will show up in your mental clarity, your emotional strength, and the unshakable peace that comes when you're no longer driven by comparison. The real danger of trying to beat others is that it keeps your focus in the wrong direction. You start living according to other people's pace, other people's goals, and other people's lives. But Stoicism reminds you that the race isn't against them, it's against the version of you that keeps settling. Every time you choose growth over comfort, clarity over distraction, you win where it counts. And you don't need to be loud about it. Real progress is silent. You don't need anyone to say you're doing great. Your own actions will reflect it back to you. Peace will reflect it. Confidence will reflect it. Integrity will reflect it. So the next time you feel behind, or less than, or invisible, stop and ask yourself, did I show up today for my own evolution? Did I keep one promise to myself? Did I reject the easy path and take one small step toward the person I'm becoming? If so, then you've already won more than most people ever will. You've chosen the quiet, consistent path of defeating yourself daily, not with punishment, but with presence. And that kind of victory doesn't shout. It simply grows into confidence, into wisdom, into unshakable self-worth. The world may not notice it now, but you will feel it in everything you do. And one day they'll see it too, not in your words, but in your presence. 6. Live by your values without needing external approval. There's a certain kind of strength that doesn't need an audience, a power that comes not from applause, but from alignment. Living by your values, especially in a world that thrives on validation, is one of the most quietly radical things you can do. Your cousin, for instance, walked away from a 6-figure corporate job to teach at a small community school. People whispered behind his back. Some called it a waste. Others said he was running from ambition, but he never flinched. Because deep down, he knew he wasn't walking away from success. He was walking toward significance. He was no longer interested in chasing what looked good. He wanted to do what felt right. That shift didn't earn him likes or shares. It earned him peace. There's also the single mother who chooses not to post every moment of her parenting journey online. Not because she's afraid of judgment, but because she doesn't need a virtual thumbs up to know she's doing the right thing. Every lunch she packs, every bedtime story she reads, every boundary she sets is an act of quiet integrity. She's not looking for applause. She's rooted in purpose. In a society trained to perform even our virtues, her silence becomes its own kind of statement. It says, I know who I am. I don't need you to agree with it for it to be real. Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you made a decision recently that your circle didn't understand. Maybe you passed on an opportunity, walked away from a relationship, or chose a slower path that didn't match the highlight reels around you. You didn't do it to rebel. You did it because something inside you said, this is who I am. And even when the room fell quiet, even when no one clapped, you stayed the course. That's not weakness, that's discipline. That's inner power. And that's what Stoicism teaches us, that virtue is not dependent on recognition. It is its own reward. Living by your values without needing approval is hard because it forces you to confront one of the deepest human cravings, the need to be seen and affirmed. But the Stoic learns to replace that craving with something stronger, self-respect. You stop looking outward for permission. You stop measuring your worth by consensus. You understand that if your peace can be taken away by someone else's disapproval, it was never real peace to begin with. So you trade popularity for principle. You trade being liked for being true. And over time, what felt like isolation starts to feel like freedom. This doesn't mean you don't listen. It doesn't mean you close your heart to feedback. It simply means that feedback no longer decides your direction. You take what's useful. You leave what isn't. You return to your compass, because when you're anchored in values, you can walk through the world without losing yourself in it. The noise doesn't disappear, but it no longer decides your next step. You become a person of quiet confidence, someone who doesn't need to announce their path because their actions walk it clearly. And that's the point. You don't need to convince others when you're convinced yourself. You don't need validation when your values are enough. The world will always chase trends, rewards, and reputation. But you, if you choose to live with inner alignment, will chase something deeper. You'll become someone who acts not for attention but from intention. Someone who is calm in storms, steady in silence, and clear when others are confused. Because you know something most don't. Real value doesn't need to be approved, it just needs to be lived. Quietly, consistently, unshakably. 7. Build your inner fortress, so nothing external can break you. There will come a moment when life strips away what you thought you could count on. The job disappears, the relationship ends, the routine collapses, and suddenly the external walls you leaned on are gone. In those moments, you'll discover what's left inside. And for some, it's chaos. But for others, it's a kind of stillness. That stillness doesn't happen by accident. It's built patiently and quietly through every small choice to protect your peace, even when no one is watching. Think of the father who lost his job without warning. The income stopped, the identity tied to his work vanished overnight. But if you looked into his home, you wouldn't see a man unraveling. You'd see him reading to his daughter, waking up at the same time every morning, shaving, folding clothes, watering plants. He didn't pretend it didn't hurt. He simply refused to let circumstances dictate his character. What you're seeing isn't denial. You're seeing a man fortified from the inside. Or maybe it's the woman you know who just ended a long relationship. There's no social media storm, no dramatic declarations. She's not searching to fill the emptiness with distractions. Instead, she writes in her notebook. She takes long walks without her phone. She begins again with quiet rituals. You can feel the shift in her, not a collapse, but a rebuilding. The world may have taken something from her, but it didn't take her center. That's the power of what Marcus Aurelius called the inner citadel. It's not a place to escape to. It's the ground beneath your feet when everything else is shaking. It's not walls you hide behind. It's a foundation you stand on. And every decision you make, especially the small, invisible ones, either strengthens or weakens it. Sometimes it's as simple as this. You get a message that shakes you. Bad news, a setback. And your instinct is to lash out or spiral. But you pause, you breathe, you open a journal and write 5 things you're still grateful for. Not because you're pretending to be fine, but because you're practicing emotional self-protection. You're telling yourself, this storm may be loud, but it won't tear me apart. That's not performance. That's discipline. And over time, those small acts, moments of conscious emotional detachment, those habits that shield your mind, become bricks in the fortress. The world is unpredictable. You cannot stop the losses, the changes, the people who disappoint you. But you can prepare. You can build a place inside that doesn't move with the weather. The Stoics understood that real strength isn't in control, it's in response. They didn't chase stability outside. They cultivated it within. Because what is external can always be taken. What is internal must be trained, earned, and protected. So ask yourself, what are you building today when no one is watching? When you choose not to argue, when you choose to go to bed early, when you choose to stretch instead of scroll, when you choose not to panic, even when your emotions want to explode. You're not just surviving, you're constructing a version of yourself that doesn't shatter easily. You're building your calm, your resilience, your clarity, and when the chaos comes, and it always does, you will not be untouched, but you will be unshaken. The goal isn't to be numb, it's to be unbreakable. Not because you don't feel, but because you know how to stay grounded in what truly matters. That's what the inner fortress offers. It is your quiet protection, your emotional independence, your steady place in a shaking world. And no one, not loss, not betrayal, not failure, can take it from you. Because you built it, and because you live in it, you can walk through anything. When you walk alone, rise alone, and win alone, you don't do it to prove anything to the world. You do it to reclaim yourself. The Stoic path doesn't promise comfort, it promises clarity. It asks you to break away from noise, let go of emotional dependency, and build the kind of inner strength that doesn't fade when circumstances change. In solitude, you discover that real freedom is not needing validation. Real power is not found in reaction, but in response. And real peace begins the moment you stop chasing approval and start living in alignment with your values. Each choice you make in silence, each moment you persist without applause, adds another layer to your inner fortress. And from that place of strength, nothing external can truly break you. You become emotionally grounded, mentally unshakable, and spiritually free. If this message speaks to where you are in life, share your experience in the comments. What part of your journey are you walking through alone right now? We'd love to hear it. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe for more content on emotional independence, self-mastery, and Stoic strength. The path is quiet, but you are never truly alone in walking it.